She told her colleagues I was just the help who needed a place to sleep. She laughed while I scrubbed her floors, telling her boss I was unskilled labor while she tried to climb the corporate ladder. She didn't know I was the silent majority shareholder of the very firm she was trying to impress. They thought I was washing dishes. I was actually cleaning house. By the end of this story, you'll learn why the quietest person in the room is often the one holding the keys to the castle. It started with a simple dinner party, or at least that's what my daughter in law Jessica called it. To me, it looked more like a performance. She had invited her colleagues over, executives and managers from Apex Logistics, the company where she was desperate to secure a promotion to regional director. These weren't friends, they were stepping stones. And I was the obstacle she had to hide. I was in the kitchen arranging the cheese platter I had paid for with my allowance, a stipend that came from my own savings, filtered through my son to make him feel like the provider. I heard her voice float down the hallway. It was that specific tone she used when she wanted to sound sophisticated, high, bright, and utterly fake. "Oh, don't mind her," she said to her boss, a man named Mr. Sterling. "That's just Robert's mother. She's unskilled labor, basically. We let her stay here to help with the cleaning. It keeps her busy." The room erupted in polite, cruel laughter. Unskilled labor. I froze. My hand hovered over the brie. I looked down at my fingers' knuckles, swollen slightly with arthritis, skin thinning like parchment. These were the hands that had wrangled union contracts in 1978 when the truckers threatened to strike. These were the hands that had steered an 18-wheeler through a blizzard in the Rockies when our lead driver quit. These were the hands that signed the checks that kept Apex Logistics, the very company Jessica worked for, afloat during the 2008 crash. But Jessica didn't know that. Robert, my son, didn't even know the full extent of it. They saw an old woman in an apron. They saw unskilled labor. I didn't drop the platter. I didn't storm in and scream. That is what a weak person does. Instead, I smoothed my apron, picked up the tray, and walked out to the patio. I served them with a smile. I poured wine for the man who was currently trying to negotiate a 15% raise with my Board A raise I had personally redlined the night before. Jessica winked at me, a gesture that said, "Good job, keep quiet." She didn't know that my silence wasn't submission. It was the sound of a trap snapping shut. Let me ask you something. Have you ever stood in a room where people talked about you like you were furniture? Have you ever had your history erased by someone who wasn't even born when you were building your legacy? It burns, doesn't it? But here's the secret I learned that night. The most dangerous person in the room is the one who knows everything but says nothing. If you are currently being underestimated, do not correct them. Not yet. Let them build their tower on the foundation they think is weak. Because when you finally pull that rug out, the fall will be that much harder. They assume because I am 72, I am obsolete. They see the gray hair and the orthopedic shoes, and they think charity case. They don't see the architect. My husband Henry and I founded Apex Logistics 40 years ago. We didn't have investors. We didn't have a safety net. We had a second mortgage and a lot of grit. Henry was the face, the charismatic shaker of hands, the man who could sell ice to a polar bear. But I was the brain. I built the routing systems. I managed the finances. I created the legal framework that protected us when the competition tried to sue us into oblivion. I was the CFO, the coup, and the janitor all in one. When Henry passed away 5 years ago, I didn't want the limelight. I was tired. I was grieving. So I stepped back. I retained 51% of the voting shares, the controlling interest, but I put a board in place to run the day to day. I became a silent director. My name wasn't on the door, it was just on the checks. I moved in with Robert and Jessica because I wanted to be close to family. I paid off their mortgage as a gift Robert accepted with a mumbled thanks, and Jessica accepted with a complaint about the house needing renovations. I thought we were a team. I thought I was the matriarch helping the next generation. But gratitude has a short half-life. Once the mortgage was paid, I became a burden. I watched Jessica climb the ranks at Apex. She was ambitious, I'll give her that, but she was reckless. She cut corners. She treated her subordinates like dirt. And now she was treating me the same way. She didn't know the silent director she complained about in her strategy meetings, the one she called the old fossil blocking progress, was the woman washing her dishes. The disrespect didn't happen all at once. It was a slow creep, like mold in the walls. It started with Robert. Mom, he said one morning, dropping his keys on the counter, I need to buy a new car. The sedan doesn't fit the image I need for my clients. You have a perfectly good car, I said gently. It's 3 years old, Mom, he snapped. I need the new Tesla. Can you help out? A Tesla. He wanted a status car while asking me to take the bus to my doctor's appointments because gas is expensive. Then came Jessica's budget cuts. She sat me down like a child at the kitchen table. We need to tighten the belt, Mom, she said, scrolling through her iPad. We're cutting your grocery stipend, and maybe you can handle the lawn care. Landscapers are so expensive. I agreed. I mowed the lawn in the humid July heat. I scrubbed their toilets until the porcelain shone. Not because I had to, I could have bought 10 houses with the dividends sitting in my account, but because I wanted to see how far they would go. I wanted to see if there was any floor to their entitlement. There wasn't. They stopped inviting me to dinner. They'd order takeout sushi and eat it in the living room while I ate a sandwich in the kitchen. They stopped asking about my day. I became a ghost in the house I had paid for. One evening, I heard them in the den. She's just taking up space, Jessica said. When she's gone, we can turn that room into a walk-in closet. Don't talk like that, Robert said, but his voice was weak. Why? It's true. She's dead weight, Robert. Unskilled, unneeded dead weight. I sat on my bed, clutching a photo of Henry. Dead weight. That was the night I decided the mourning period was over. I want you to pause for a second. If you are currently giving your money, your time, or your dignity to someone who treats you like an option, stop right now. Ask yourself, am I helping them or am I enabling them to hurt me? I thought I was helping Robert by being generous, but I wasn't. I was feeding a monster that was slowly eating me alive. Generosity without boundaries isn't love, it's self destruction. And I was done destroying myself. It was trash day. I was taking out the recycling, another one of my assigned chores, when I saw it, a stack of papers in the bin, shredded but not shredded well. Vertical strips, amateur, I have a habit. Henry called it the audit. I check everything. It's how we caught an embezzling manager in 92. It's how I knew Robert was failing math in high school before his report card arrived. I sat at my small desk in the guest room and taped the strips together. It took 3 hours. My back ached, but my mind was sharp. It was an email draft from Jessica. To our biggest competitor, Velocity Transport. I can deliver the client list and the Q4 routing algorithms, the email read, but I want a VP title and a signing bonus. My current company is stagnant. The leadership is old and out of touch. She wasn't just insulting me, she was stealing from me. She was planning to sell the proprietary data I had written in 1990, the backbone of our software, to a rival firm. This was corporate espionage committed from my own guest bedroom. I felt a coldness wash over me. It wasn't sadness, it was the feeling of a CEO realizing an employee had just fired themselves. The email mentioned a meeting date. I'll present the data at the board review on Friday. She planned to use the board meeting, my board meeting, to showcase her value, gain leverage, and then jump ship. She thought she was walking into a promotion. She didn't know she was walking into a courtroom. I waited until Robert and Jessica left for work the next morning. Then I picked up the phone. I didn't call Robert. I called Arthur Henderson, the CEO I had installed. Mrs. Sterling, he answered on the first ring. He knew better than to make me wait. Arthur, I said, my voice steady. I'll be attending the quarterly review this Friday, in person. There was a pause. Ma'am, you haven't been to a review in 5 years. I know, but I think it's time the silent director spoke up. And Arthur, I want to be introduced last, after Jessica Sterling's presentation. Of course. Should we prepare the chair? Yes. Friday morning arrived. I told Jessica I was going to the senior center for bingo. She rolled her eyes, applying her lipstick in the mirror. Have fun, Mom. Try not to lose your hearing aid. And don't forget to defrost the chicken before you leave. We're having guests tonight. I won't forget, I said. Enjoy your meeting. It's just routine, she lied. I waited until her car pulled out of the driveway. Then I called a town car. I didn't dress in the house. I went to the bank, opened my safety deposit box, and retrieved my jewelry, the diamond brooch Henry gave me when we made our first million. I went to the office, sneaking in through the executive elevator that required a key code only 3 people possessed. I went to the suite that had been locked since Henry died. I took off the polyester cardigan. I put on my navy blue Chanel suit. I pinned the brooch to the lapel. I looked in the mirror. The unskilled labor was gone. The majority shareholder was back. Before we walk into that boardroom, I want you to write this down. If you are in a situation where you are being exploited, you need a plan. I call this the dignity protocol. 1. Gather evidence. Do not react emotionally. React legally. Keep the receipts, the emails, the text. Tape the shredded paper back together. 2. Secure assets. Make sure your name is on the deed, the account, the power. If they think you have nothing, let them believe it until you prove you have everything. 3. Strike once. Don't fight 100 small battles. Fight one big one that ends the war. Now let's go fire my daughter-in-law. I walked toward the boardroom at 10:15 a.m. Through the glass walls, I could see her. Jessica stood at the head of the table, projecting a PowerPoint. She looked confident, powerful. She was midway through explaining how she had single-handedly optimized a workflow that I had designed 10 years ago. The door opened. The lights came up. Mr. Henderson stood immediately. Ladies and gentlemen, please pause. We have a surprise addition to the agenda. Jessica looked annoyed. Arthur, I'm in the middle of. I'd like to introduce the chairwoman of the board and majority owner of Apex Logistics, Arthur said, his voice ringing out. Mrs. Evelyn Sterling. I stepped in. The sound of a pin dropping would have sounded like a gunshot. Jessica dropped her laser pointer. It clattered on the mahogany table, her face drained of color, turning a sickly shade of gray. Mom, she whispered, what are you? You're supposed to be at bingo. I didn't look at her. Not yet. I walked to the head of the table. Mr. Henderson pulled out the chair, my chair. I sat down and placed the taped together email in the center of the table. Hello, Jessica, I said. My voice wasn't the soft, wavering tone I used at home. It was steel. It was the voice that stared down union bosses and bank auditors. Please continue. I'm very interested to hear how you plan to optimize my company before you sell our client list to Velocity Transport. The silence was absolute. You could hear the hum of the air conditioning. The board members shifted, eyes darting from me to the document on the table. I I don't understand, she stammered. I never. You called me unskilled labor, I said, looking her dead in the eye. You said I was just the help. But you forgot one thing, my dear. The help sees everything. The help takes out the trash. And I found this. I tapped the email. This constitutes a breach of contract, violation of your end day, and attempted corporate espionage. Mom, please, she said, her voice cracking. It's just business. Yes, I said, it is, and you're bad for business. I turned to Arthur. Security, please escort Mrs. Sterling out. She is terminated effective immediately for cause, and have legal draft the suit for breach of fiduciary duty. 2 guards stepped forward. Jessica looked at her boss, then at me. She started to cry. Real, ugly tears. Not the fake ones she used to get her way with Robert. You can't do this. I live in your house. Correction, I said coolly. You live in my house, and as of this morning, the locks are being changed. Robert called me an hour later. He was screaming, how could you? You embarrassed her. You fired her. We have a mortgage. No, I corrected him, holding the phone away from my ear. You don't have a mortgage. I paid off the mortgage. The house is in my name. You have a lease, or you did. What are you talking about? I'm evicting you, Robert. You have 30 days. That's legally generous. You can't do this to family. Family? I laughed, a dry, sharp sound. Family doesn't treat their mother like a maid. Family doesn't steal from the company that feeds them. You wanted a Tesla? You can buy one with your own money. Oh, wait, you don't have any. I hung up. I didn't go back to the house. I stayed at the Four Seasons for a week while the lawyers handled the eviction. They left in 3 days. They couldn't handle the shame. The neighbors saw the town car bringing me home to inspect the property. They saw the shift. Robert tried to play the grandma card. He said I was hurting the grandkids. I told him, I set up trust funds for the children the day they were born. You can't touch a dime of it. They will go to college. They will be safe. But you are a grown man. Figure it out. They moved into a rental apartment 2 towns over. Jessica can't get a job in the industry. Word travels fast when you try to sell secrets. Robert is working at a car dealership. He drives a used Ford. I didn't keep the company. I realized I didn't want to spend my twilight years fighting. I sold Apex Logistics 6 months later to a global firm. The payout was substantial. I took a portion of that money, $17 million, and I started the Unskilled Labor Scholarship. It's a full ride grant for women over 50 who want to return to school, start businesses, or reclaim their independence. Women who have been told they are past their prime, women who have been called invisible. I live in a condo downtown now. It has a view of the city I helped build. I don't scrub toilets. I don't mow lawns. And when I host a dinner party, no one talks down to me. Jessica was right about one thing. I was cleaning house. I just started with the trash they left in my guest room. They will try to tell you that you are invisible. They will try to tell you that your time has passed. Do not believe them. Your history is your weapon. Your silence is your strategy. And your dignity, that is the one thing they cannot take unless you give it to them. If you have ever been underestimated because of your age, or if you know a woman who is holding the family together while being treated like she's invisible, hit that like button. Let's show them we are still here. And if you are sitting there right now wondering how to protect yourself, how to organize your own paper trail, I want you to subscribe. Next week, I'm sharing the exact checklist I used to secure my assets before the confrontation. You don't want to miss that. Subscribe to Grandma True Stories. Justice is best served by you.